So this is probably one of the most insane things that I have done right here. I am out at a racetrack just outside of LA with Tilta previewing the Hydra Arm Mini. This is all mounted on a 4D from DJI, and that is the Ferrari picture car right there. And we're gonna check it out and see what this thing is capable of.
All right, guys, so we are back in the studio, spent the day talking with Tilta, talking to their engineers, going over the features, and most importantly, got to shoot with the new Hydra Arm Mini. If you haven't actually checked out Tilta, though, definitely go check them out. They make so many really awesome camera accessories. I mean, they have camera cages, they have my car mount that I use is from them. They have some accessories for the DJI gimbals that I use a ton. But I was really excited to try this system out because I tend to shoot cars a lot these days, and to me, this kind of reminded me of the original DJI Ronin that really took the gimbal mainstream, allowing it to work just handheld in a much smaller package. It was still like big, it was still fairly expensive compared to like the new RS3s that I own, but it was the first massive step towards taking something that was previously only used in like big budget movies, so the gimbal, and making it accessible to people like us. And that's kind of what I think this is. So sure, I have a suction cup car mount system from Tilta that I can throw a gimbal on and get some pretty insane shots, but it is still fixed. And because it's fixed, there's a lot of cool shots that you just can't pull off. So I was really stoked to see what Tilta was doing, and not just to review it, but really to see where this might take the industry in the future. And that's probably what's going to be more important. So I do want to talk to you guys about the hardware of this because it is pretty insane what Tilta is doing with this. And they've definitely come at it from like trying to take a massive dedicated camera car and shrinking it down as much as possible without losing any of the functionality of those dedicated camera cars. This is not like they just took something like the Hydra Alien suction cup mount that I use and integrated some form of motorized arm into it. That's not what this is. The fact that they called this a mini just felt a bit off for me from what I have used in the past. But the results are this is not quite as easy as I thought it would be for someone like me to actually operate it. Now, if you're used to using like a dedicated camera car, having to airlift those things into remote locations, being able to take this Hydra Arm Mini and ship it in normal camera boxes and fitting it in a commercial airline is just absolutely insane. But this is definitely more of like a 2 to 3 man crew for setting it up. You're looking at 2 to 3 hours to get everything working properly. And it is pretty large for something called a mini. So packing this up, just in general, loading this up is going to need a large SUV or a van just to get this on location. The arm itself, which does break down, it's 12.6 feet long, has 360 degrees of rotation, and you can actually pitch this thing up and down 80 degrees. So once you install this, you can basically do anything that you could do with a normal camera car. But this also means that you probably have some restrictions of a normal dedicated camera car. So I can't imagine that you can just shoot on normal streets with a 13-foot arm hanging off the side of your car without special permissions unless you have closed roads or a closed circuit track. So this will definitely need to be used somewhere extremely remote, or at least have some major filmmaking permits in order to operate this. So personally, I kind of wish this was a little bit smaller. Maybe I need like a Hydra Arm Micro or something, but I asked if you could shorten the arm, but you can't. You can't use any less sections. I think there's 3 different sections to it, and it's totaling the 12.6 feet. So you can't shrink that down. So hardware-wise, I think it's still a bit too large for someone like me until they can make it smaller or allow you to use just fewer arm sections. Obviously, if you did that, you wouldn't get the full range of motion with a smaller arm, but it would still make it way more usable on a public street and hopefully just give a lot of scenarios that you could use it for that you can't even use the Hydra Arm Mini for. Now, when it came to testing it out, technically, I didn't use it. The arm itself was being operated by a trained professional, again, mainly because it's dangerous when you have a pole sticking out 13 feet from the side of your car.
Top shot, like getting up high, because I've never had that.
Oh, right, because you're like a post or something.
Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Feels nice.
Right on, man.
Very nice.
Maybe if they could make it smaller, like a 6-foot arm, I'm pretty sure I could have pulled that off. What I was operating was the gimbal. So this is going to be a minimum 2-person operation plus drivers, and that's if the camera itself doesn't need like a dedicated focus puller or a real-time camera operator. So originally, Tilta had this set up using the DJI Master wheels to control the gimbal. The actual arm is controlled with a more traditional joystick, but most people seem to prefer that traditional joystick setup. So after a few laps, they switched it out to the DJI transmission system.
Switch broadcast.
Okay. Because I have a transmission. I use this with the Alien. Oh, yeah.
That's where I felt more comfortable because I own and use the transmission with my own car mount setup. So the joystick it really feels like you're flying a drone. So if you're used to flying drones, I think this will come pretty easy for you. But this is really where the revolutionary part of this is. And I'm hoping Tilta thinks about making like a smaller micro edition, which I really hope that they build. I don't think that they are, but if they want to make it, call me, guys. We'll make it happen. Because those of us who are using these fixed mount systems like the Alien, every time we want a new angle, we have to pull the system off the car. We have to clean a new area of the car for the suction cups to mount. We have to pull everything off, reinstall the entire system, and then try and get back to that same spot on the road ideally. And by this time, the sun is completely changed. It's like 30 minutes later. It's just not an easy thing to move around. So even if it wasn't like a full cinematic shoot where I was having perfectly choreographed arms moving in a certain direction while the gimbal is following the car, just having the ability to change up the angle or rotate the arm in a few seconds would be just life-changing. And the ability to do just a simple like arc where the arm lifts up and having the gimbal kind of pan up and down at the same time, basically like what I would do all day long on a drone.
And speaking of drones, check it out, guys. Ran into Potato Jet, Frank. Let's see what we got. New toys.
We got the Skydio 2 Plus right here.
Ah, nice.
Here we go. This is the beacon. And so what it does is it
Okay.
follows the drone, the beacon. Like if you're holding the beacon, it'll be following the drone.
Right.
Or the beacon, I mean. And so here we go. Let's check this.
So you don't have to have like a phone hooked up all the time.
No. So you give this to your subject, your talent, and if they're driving around or walking around, it'll actually follow it while avoiding obstacles and whatnot.
That's pretty awesome.
Here, check it out, man.
Wow, that was really good.
So actually ended up spending a good amount of time flying the drone because the shots were just looking insane from the sky. Plus, Gene was on the FPV, which was just ripping past me. Like, I can't believe we didn't wreck because I'd be getting a typical stable Mavic style shot and he would just rip past me on the FPV.
I think I just flew right under you.
Yeah, I saw it.
But if you think about it, a car camera system could essentially operate just like a drone with a single person, the exact same way. All I would need is lift and rotation of the arm in the left hand and a pitch and yaw of the gimbal in the right hand, and I'm set. And I think that this is all like entirely possible. Now, we used it with the Ronin 4D, which is a really easy setup to use because that camera pairs so well and wirelessly with the DJI transmission. But you can mount any camera to this and use anything from like a standard DJI RS3 Pro gimbal with a smaller camera all the way up to like a Ronin MX or Movi Pro with a Red or Alexa Mini. So the payload on the arm is 22 pounds, which isn't that high, but you can get some pretty insane cinema-worthy camera setups these days for under 10 pounds. So basically, now you have like 4 different ways of getting killer rolling shots. So you have the unsafe way, hanging out of the back of the car, although this way actually works really well. You have a slightly safer way, which is inside of the car, just hanging the gimbal out of the window, which is a bit restrictive depending on the size of your window. Then you have the camera car kit, which does work really well. It just requires a bit more work if you want to change up your shots a lot. And then now you have this full camera rig, which gets you everything. It just doesn't seem like something you could get away with on a public street. And if they can ever figure out a way to get close to these Hydra Arm Mini shots that can be legal on a highway and ideally operated by one person, that is going to be the gold standard for me. So right now, if you need like a full camera car setup, especially if you're in like remote areas or have an enclosed track, this is probably going to be a dream setup. And for 10 grand, it is unbelievably priced for what you get. But for me, I'm calling it like a first step before the independent filmmaker, dedicated YouTuber, car enthusiast gets their dream setup. It isn't quite there yet for people like me. If there was a mini version of the Mini, or basically some fusion of like the Edelkrone Jib 1 and the Hydra Arm Mini. And guys, let me know if you want to see a few more breakdowns, like BTS breakdowns of how I got the shot, or BTS from some of my car shoots. I've got some BTS over on IG. I just actually made a short on YouTube about that. So if you want to see some more of that stuff, subscribe, like, let me know if you want to make that happen. Hope you guys are doing amazing. I'll see you soon in a new video.